What's up, everybody? Back again for another spoiler review for season 2 of the Clone Wars, and it's dubbed like the Bounty Hunter Saga. No, the Rise of the Bounty Hunters. This season was relatively cool. Certain parts that I thought was boring, like Ahsoka getting her lightsaber pickpocketed. I didn't really. None that was bad, but it's one of those things. It's like there are shows that does something like that I usually do not care for. It's like, some street rat kind of situation and like befriending them and you know that kind of crap. We all seen episodes from shows with situations like that, and sometimes they don't really play that well for me. Uh, but yeah, a lot of like bounty hunters in this, and of course, like you get young Boba Fett still like vengeance seeking, which vengeance seeking against Mace Windu, which recently they announced, at least there was like an interview with Sam Jackson, who was eager for Bryce Dallas Howard, who directed an episode in Book of Boba Fett and I think Mandalorian, and she's does stellar work, and he I don't know if it was like an interview or Sam Jackson was speaking with her directly, but he is eager for his return as Mace Windu in Star Wars in some fashion. And it'll be dope to get that because, like, you would think, because half of Book of Boba Fett, I'm going to rewatch it just for a spoiler review for the channel. But half of the Book of Boba Fett, uh, it's just Boba was like really pushed to the background in certain cases when some other characters came in that we are more familiar of. I mean, just as familiar, but like was just like more standouts over Boba Fett. But it'd have been more interesting to have like Mace Windu come back somehow, maybe somewhere similar to the case how like Darth Maul came back, with robotic, legs and stuff like that. And you could easily have done something similar with Sam Jackson. Uh, and, establish, hey, you know, the I want to say like friction, because like I'm pretty sure by the end of the Clone Wars series there was some kind of like reconciliation or some understanding or whatever. I haven't gotten to that part yet, but I'm been curious because I don't recall. So maybe it will be brought up at some point through this series to where, because right now, like Boba at this point in time as a kid, because this is like early Boba. He hasn't been properly trained, and he got this late female bounty hunter who's pretty much training. He pretty much like a Padawan, but for a bounty hunter. So that way, Boba can like hone his skills to be like the best bounty hunter that we know him to be. Uh, but I would like to see like at some point Boba at least become begrudgingly understanding by the end of the series. But it'd be great to just see that play out in live action. That like these guys who the youngest held a grudge against, or at least working together with the guy who killed his father. And it'll just be interesting to see live action. But Boba at this time, he like his main goal is just revenge. But with working with these bounty hunters, or at least a bounty hunter that you view as a surrogate mother, has to teach him like how to be a killer. He hasn't really like done the deed. Eventually he will obviously he becomes one of the best bounty hunters, but it's like it's kind of like in history, in real life history, where it's like You gotta teach, certain civilizations like Spartans or samurai have to teach, their kids like at a very young age how to get used to taking another person's life. And it is, and even by today's standards, like human beings are naturally, you know, uh, repel against taking another person's life. They just won't do it. You have to be trained, like when it comes to like maybe police personnel or military personnel. They actually have to train you in order to get used to taking another person's life. And even then, it's still daunting on a person's soul, because unless you're a serial killer, your empathy comes into your empathy and consciousness comes into play that keeps you from just doing abhorrent things like taking another person's life. But yeah, you get beginning of the season, you get like a continuation from where we left off in season 1 with Cad Bane, and like him stealing the holocron, which holds information about Force sensitive children. Now, you would think like Jedi Fallen Order or in Last Jedi, you think that's like the first time people hear the word holocron, but no, it's already been, at least in my mind's eye, I think like the holocron was the first time I heard that. At least in my memory, I thought it was Last Jedi. I thought that was a new concept for that movie, but no, holocrons has always been a thing. Ergo, the Clone Wars series. And it's pretty much like maybe like a flash drive to hold certain data that you want to hold. In this case, it's Force sensitive children, and only Jedi are known to unlock it. But thanks to Cad Bane, holding Ahsoka hostage just to get Anakin to unlock it for him, so that way he can, because he's being paid by Darth Sidious to kidnap the Force sensitive children on the list. We only got like at least 2 so far. The first 2 off the list, which was like, I, hate watching something that, does things to little children, especially babies. It bothers me. It's something that's like, it gets pretty grim, in Star Wars canon, not just in the series, but just in canon. There's pretty dark moments if you think about it, because there's certain moments when you see like people getting executed. It's off screen, but I think that's even just as worse. I don't want to say worse, but it just fills in like the mind, like, oh my god, the brutality of it, even though you don't see it, is apparent, and it's just intense. Like, I forgot the lady's name who's training Boba Fett. She like, has 3 hostages that Boba helped, 3 hostages from on the board of, Anakin and Mace Windu's warship, because he just wanted to, like, Boba's trying to infiltrate the ship fleet where Mace Windu is on, and he's trying to assassinate him. It failed. Then they made off with at least 3 or 2 clone troopers and 1 like admiral, and she executes one of the clone troopers, who Boba just, as you can see, like he, struggling to actually do the deed, and she had to step in, and she gets infuriated with him. It's like, like, when I tell you to kill somebody, you just fucking do it. And it's like, trying to get him battle hardened. And I'm curious to, like, you can see where, by the time the book of Boba Fett, where it's like how like he's just an experienced fighter, but it's like there was some trial and tribulations he had to go through just to get to where he is. And it's like you've seen that the seeds are sprouting right now. And and then you get the, throughout, you see it in the first season, but I didn't think these guys was going to be like, at least my memory of this, it's been a long time since I came back to the series, but this pirate that keeps coming back turns out to be like the former boyfriend of Boba's bounty hunter teacher. And he's just like any other pirate. It's like he, uh he like loot and pillage, or he just like in this case, he won't help her because after she's running off after she's getting chased by because they have to finagle a way to like they trying to get at Mace Windu after they chase him down on this planet, but uh they get trapped by some debris, but thanks to R2D2 getting some help, and like they rescue Anakin and Windu. And so Ahsoka and Plo Koon have to go find Boba and this lady bounty hunter. And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the doggone name, but I think he dies not on screen, but like long after like the Clone Wars had ended, or at least somewhere between beginning of Revenge of the Sith or after Revenge of the Sith. At some point around that time, she died from from what is been told on the Wikipedia. She died being pushed off a building, or at least hinted that she died from being, because she's been the person who did it saying like all it took was a push or some kind of situation. So it's hinted that she was pushed off a building and she died. Kind of like a sucky way to go for a bounty hunter. It's kind of like either they die in a blaze of glory kind of situation, or not only like a blaze of glory, but dying with a gun in the hand kind of situation, or at least die in their old age, but not something so weak as that. But what else? Yeah, it's like the pirate, because after like Plo Koon's trying to convince Boba to reveal like the hostages, and he just won't talk, and goes to this pirate leader who's pretty much our surrogate father in a way. That's the way it's like looking. He's because he's remaining neutral in this part. He's got nothing to do with it. So it's like, because like I like this scene where he's walking with Plo Koon, because earlier he in the scene he already told the ladies like, I won't help you, but I won't hinder you either. I'm not in it. And then as Plo Koon arrives, he introduces himself to Plo Koon, and he says like, she's right in there, and it is probably a trap. And Plo Koon's like, oh, why are you being so forthcoming? And it's like, well, I just want to let you, I'm telling you this because I want to let you know I'm not in it. It's between you two, so I was, I'm telling you right now is that it probably is a trap. I'm not involved, so y'all handle y'all business. And he's just sitting out there and waiting until things are done. And I kind of like that. It's like, it's not like an honorable pirate per se, but he's like, he establishing, where his bread is buttered kind of situation. And it's like, if he's in, not in any shape or form, involved in this, he's not going to step up or, cause chaos either. But Plo Koon brings the boy after the lady, takes off, showing like, and Boa's like, kind of, because she runs off, thinking like, Boba's thinking like, oh, he, help me, and she just takes off and not even try to make an attempt to save the kid. And you probably see the seeds plenty of like distrust, and he's probably have to learn that in this bounty hunter life, you can't really trust anybody. And ironically, it wasn't until like at least later, when you meet like Mando and other warriors, and it shows that depending on the person, or at least kind of relationship you establish, you might, by and large, on rare occasions, come across somebody who has like honor among them. But she takes off. He goes to the pirate leader and it's like, look, can you convince this kid to reveal the whereabouts of the hostages? And there's a nice moment with this pirate showing some level of honor, but to a certain point of view, you can look at it to where it's like, I'm not in it. So it's like, there's no reason for me to hinder him either. So it's like, he goes to the kid and looks him right in the eye, which is kind of like what you should do with a kid of that age, especially a kid who's been through a lot, obviously, you got to talk to him like an adult and not like some little kid. And he goes to the kid, looks him straight in the eye and say, look, kid, I know how you feel right now, but you got to tell this guy where the hostages is. Do you think your father would, don't you think your father was an honorable man. Don't you think he would, do the honorable thing? And knowing that, yeah, his father would do the honorable thing, as we've seen in like, Attack of the Clones, he got a fair bit of honor. And so he obviously reveals where the hostages is, the last two, and then Plo Koon and Ahsoka saves them. There was another episode where you see like the pirate leader coming in. I think it's like a earlier episode where he's pretty much like raiding this farming. This plan where there's like this group of villagers, just a farming kind of community, and he's pretty much like Attila the Hun, where he's just like coming in and it's like, you pay us this amount in like crops and stuff like that, and we won't come in and tear up the place. And so they hire these bounty hunters later. You got Anakin and Obi-Wan come into play, and they all help teach these farmers and how to defend themselves. Now, there was this one whiny little villager. He's like, I can't do this. It's like, we're villagers. You're supposed to be doing this for us. And it's like, wow, that was like, he really went full ham with that role, whoever the voice actor was, because like that was so whiny, and it's like, come on, dude. It's like, I get it. It's like, he doesn't feel like he's up for this. He's not a fighter. He's not raised that way. And it's just like with the previous season where you got those monkey people who was just trying to remain neutral in this. There's a lot of civilizations throughout the series so far, as I'm seeing, that it's like there's the book, there's a lot of planets who just want to remain neutral in this party. They don't want to get involved in either side because it's going to tear up their own planet. And in this one, the villager just, he doesn't want to get involved. He doesn't want to fight. He wants these people off doesn't want to be bothered, but he also doesn't want to fight. And given realistically what's going on currently in Ukraine, is just like, sometimes, people, rise up. Which is, kudos to the Ukrainian people and like shout out to them, because like, it's like, you think that kind of like gumption is like a lost art after, WW2 or even like Vietnam. You think like, certain people lost that, fighting spirit for their for freedom, but it's like, push come to shove, people show who they really are, and those people who normally are just civilians, they're not fighters, and they've never been trained, they never even wanted to be a part of. But if freedom is challenged, or your way of life is challenged, people will rise up and defend that tooth and nail, and that just shows how fucking awesome a person is. And that's heroes of heroes, in my opinion. And of course that little whiny alien comes back in the end and like steps up. So you can see that one coming. It was kind of obvious. You see that from time to time in shows like that. And there was this one bounty hunter in this group here, which I really wanted to talk about. I want to make a mental note on that because it was so fucking obvious what they was doing. Whereas like this guy who looks like fucking Kung Lao from Mortal Kombat with his freaking hat, which is kind of metal and used to deflect, blasters. And he actually twirls that thing and hits somebody, and he puts it back on his head and does the thing. It's like, that is so freaking Kung Lao. It was Kung Lao as hell. But I guess it kind of makes sense. You got a hat like that, very distinct. You got to do something with it because it's too distinct to not be functional in some fashion. But that was freaking Kung Lao as I ever seen it. That was wild to me. you know, this episode kind of ranks relatively low for me. Not too low, not like I think the lowest is with that pickpocket with the Ahsoka situation, but this one kind of makes up for it with that Kung Lao stuff because that was pretty dope. And then you see like Anakin and Obi-Wan learning, because Obi-Wan learns a lot in this, because there's certain things that Obi-Wan went through in this season that because you think like Obi-Wan, oh, he's wise, he knows his stuff, he's like sees all the angles kind of situation. But in this one, he made some fair bit of I won't call them mistakes, but you have to learn. He has to learn something here. I'll get to that in a second, but it's like, well, so first of all, I should say that they learn, what him and Anakin learned is that not all bounty hunters are come from the same cloth, cut from the same cloth. These bounty hunters, they get paid to either kill or bring in people or whatever, and they're not all bloodthirsty cutthroats like Cad Bane. It's just, you will see these kind of people have honor like Mando would, and it's like it's just like they're not like always in it for money. Of course, they want to do it for money. They got skills. They don't want to do it for free, but they're not like bloodthirsty savages or anything like that, or any sense of the word. So that's one of the things. It's one of the few things that Obi-Wan had to learn here. That because Jedi and bounty hunters, especially Mandalorians, which makes an appearance for the first time in this series here, but he has to learn that they're not Cad Bane. They all are not Cad Bane, or even this pirate guy. There's like some nuances here, and just like there's light side and dark side of Jedi users, there's a light side and a dark side of bounty hunters. So there's a lot of prejudice here. Prejudice. Why can't I say the freaking word? Prejudice. There's a lot of stereotypes. Prejudices. There we go. That a lot of these characters have to overcome. There's another episode, I like how like the Clone Wars, there's like sometimes 2-part or 3-part kind of continuations in these episodes that kind of goes in a nice continuous motion. I really like that. And it's like with the whole beginning of this, like Cad Bane and his little arcs from where it ended in season 1 into season 2, and him like getting his holocron, and then finding out a couple of force sensitive children on this holocron getting kidnapped and then getting away, and it's all in a continuous motion, and then to the next kind of arc. And I really dug that as very brilliant kind of situation here. The way it's done, or at least stylized in this kind of fashion. But there's another kind of a 3-parter with Obi-Wan, and you get established this neutral senator. I forgot her name. Satine Kryze, Duchess Satine Kryze, not senator, but a Duchess. And it's clear that they had like a bit of a past when it's like it was mentioned that when Obi was a Padawan to Qui-Gon, they was out on a mission, and they somehow met up with the Duchess, and along the way, in Obi's younger years, he really formed like a bond between Satine, and he's obviously was spitting. They both smitten with each other, and he mentioned that he was tempted to just leave the Jedi Order to be with her, because obviously he really cares for her, and like vice versa. But they had two opposing ideologies, to where she wants to remain neutral, and he she's abhorrent of violence. She's kind of like a pacifist, which the Jedi shouldn't normally be. But as I mentioned in the previous video of my review of season 1, check that out, by the way, because you guys, viewpoints, are just, stellar. Thank you for that. Give me some insights that I probably overlooked. But because of the war, it's like, they keep calling themselves peacekeepers, but the war changed them, maybe not wholeheartedly, but fundamentally. Even with Yoda, which I won't say I don't like Yoda so far in this, but Yoda's making you can see, like, from where we see Yoda in Empire Strikes Back, that's a man who has made tons of mistakes and overlooked a lot of stuff that he has like the biggest regrets, and you can see the regrets unfolding. Not that it's entirely his fault, but it's just like he lost his way in a certain things or made wrong decisions. Where it's like, I didn't write it down, but just certain things that he was saying that seems like not what we know Yoda, at least like I said, it's like when he's not young, but like, young-ish Yoda, who's still like the wise old mentor of a lot of them in the Jedi Order. But it's just that he was just like the way things he, says or does. It's not like it's wrong, it's right at the time, but he's just like he doesn't give it enough time to chew on it, or I should say, it's just like, the philosophies of the Jedi at this point in time is just like so, they're not allowing any kind of wiggle room at all. And that stagnation, that's what I was looking for. That stagnation is what you see playing out right now, is just like it's going to be their downfall. And like I said before, it's like, their fundamentally has been changed because of this war. And I think, in my mind's eye, I like to think that's part of Palpatine's or Sidious mindset, or at least part of his plan. It's just like putting them through this war, spreading them thin, exploiting their stagnation to the point where it's like all that is blocking, because their ability to see the Force is being hindered, and this war is not helping. And all that, their mind is just completely just been like, at least their mind's eyes, just like it's taking off they're taking their eyes off the overall picture, or at least their focus is not on why we can't see through the Force. Let me take some time, meditate, and try to break through that. But they're too concerned with like the war and trying to end the war, and that's just a problem. And that's where Obi-Wan is just like trying to, because they keep calling us peacekeepers, and it's like you're not seeing, because neither one of them are seeing each other's side of the point. It's like a very problematic thing to do when you have a difference of opinion that strongly, one side or the other, and it's like you're trying to be altruistic, about your side, and it's just like with like Democrats and Republicans, you can see that playing out. It's kind of so funny to where it's like, man, it's like the Clone Wars is really like, oh my God, it's playing out, or at least like life imitating art kind of situation, to where it's like, each side was mainly like, oh, what our side is doing is right and altruistic, and we're stand-up people because of it, and what your side is doing is ultimately wrong, and you don't want to give an inch for the other side, or at least try to see the other's point of view. And like you see like Obi-Wan and Satine just really butting heads, despite them clearly liking each other and getting along, and outside, just like if you go into Thanksgiving dinner with people, family members who are different political views and stuff like that, you leave that off the table. And it's like when they leave that their viewpoints off the table, they get along perfectly, and it's so freaking good. And it's like the way it's playing out. It's like, oh my god, wow. The Clone Wars. I'm not sure about Rebels. When I get the Rebels and do like a review for all those seasons, I can probably see more stuff playing out in like a real life scenario. It's like that's just so interesting. Now I just now thought about like holy shit, it's just like so you know the equate to the other. It's so good. Uh, but that's the thing. Like Obi-Wan has to learn. Well, it's a teen too, where it's like you gotta see the other side, and Obi-Wan just refused to see that point of view because he's so like he what he sees is his side is doing good. The Jedi are right, and we got to establish, hey, we got to, keep the peace and like step in and defeat uh the enemy, so that way the Galactic Republic can bring order, and just the Jedi can get back to doing what we were doing previously. And it's like I kind of understand to a certain degree where Obi-Wan is coming from, because like they were forced. If you see the Attack of the Clones, you can see like towards the end, like they pretty much like forced their hand and to step it in. Where it's like previously in the movie they did not want. I think it was Mace Windu who mentions that we're not soldiers, we're peacekeepers, and they still maintain that mindset, but they just refuse to see that you have gone beyond that now. You're not peacekeepers anymore. You're calling yourselves that. It's kind of like, I'm pretty sure, like during the medieval Europe, a lot of knights still call themselves peacekeepers, or Romans probably call themselves peacekeepers. But by and large, what they've been doing, not that it's like, maybe not so much with like the Romans, but you can see like they, use the guise of peacekeepers in order to do some really fuck shit half the time. But medieval knights, to a certain degree, it's just like, not like the Jedi are just bloodthirsty killers and just going rampant doing whatever they want kind of situation. But it's just like you're doing all this stuff in the war and it's changed you, and you're not seeing that. And you're still trying to hold up the guise of peacekeepers, and you're not anymore. Not at this point in time. What's another thing Obi-Wan had to learn? Oh, there was a situation on the Battle of Geonosis. It's another continuation of an arc, to where it's like they did it with this queen alien kind of situation. Maybe it's not on Geonosis. No, it's Geonosis. This queen alien was pretty much reminiscent of the movie Aliens in a way, because you got like these bug people, kind of like locusts or something like that. These bug people who has some underground queen who has these parasites, these egg parasites that burrow into your brain and like cause you to move like zombies in a way. And they kidnap one of the Jedi and hold her hostage, and try to like, because the queen can mentally invade their minds if done so, through these worm seed hatches. And she once again have a mind of a Jedi, and you have that in her thrall. But Obi-Wan, and which is funny because Anakin has to step in, because Obi-Wan is just like, too curious to see what happened. I'm not sure if that's some kind of like, because he's doing it just because he says he's doing it because he wants to study it, but it's like, it's kind of a sadistic Obi-Wan. It's like the Obi-Wan's like really like made a huge faux pas on that one, because like, he's talking about he want to study it, and it's like a funny line that Anakin said, because after he steps on one of the worms, and it's like, study at the end of my boot, and it's like, come on, it's like I laughed my ass off. That was just funny. Study at the end of my boot. But yeah, it's like those are kind of like moments so far as like, I'm pretty sure there's gonna be more, but like Obi-Wan really like made some faults in this season so far, and it's like, wow, that was like like really kind of like poor judgment on Obi's part. But I'm on the subject of before I get to Anakin, I was about to bring up Anakin, but before we get to that, you talking about like I mentioned in my last video of season 1 review about War is Hell. Talking about war, they made a freaking WMD, but it's supposed to affect only electronics and like droids and anything that's runs on like like robotics or like just mechanical or anything. And this blast lets out this huge EMP, and then the blast still like it's not like thermonuclear or like fire or anything like that. Well, maybe some level of heat, but it's just not like actual burn because there's light. But it's kind of like more of like a well, it's more so like I think the proper way I think I should call it is like a shock wave. But beyond that, there's like obviously like a huge EMP blast. It's pretty much an EMP blast. But this WMD is just like it landed and causes big wave that kind of craters the ground below. And it's like, yeah, I am conflating two different arcs because it leads into finding out about like this kaiju alien is the last of his kind. We'll get to that later, but it's just like War is Hell. It's like they made a fucking WMD. Like holy shit, it's gotten to that point. It's not like a deadly blast, but it just only affects electronics. But holy crap, the crater left behind is still like could cause damage to a planet, which one of the aliens who's native to that planet pointed out. And it's like, that's a problem. Like a blast that's so huge, even though it doesn't harm organic life, the fact that the shock wave can cause like a ground to crack open and leave a pit is still like a problem. The kaiju, and you can see Sidious really like rearing his head every once in a while. The fact that he has this this kaiju was called like a Zillo. I think it's like a play on Godzilla, but it's like a Zillo who has a hide that's so tough that even lightsabers cannot get through it. That's tough. So they had to really like utilize these stun cannons to shock its nervous system underneath of any openings that this creature has just to get it to sleep. But Mace Windu is refusing to like overall kill it, especially if it's like the last of its kind. And they with like it was like Palpatine's idea to bring it to Coruscant. It's like, you want to bring a fucking kaiju to Coruscant? It's like a mix of Godzilla and Jurassic Park, and you're bringing this gigantic creature to a populated area instead of like an uninhabited, or at least, well, let's call it uninhabited planet. Of course, it's gonna have like plants and animals and what have you, but it's like put it into like a habitat where it can thrive. No, you bring it to of course it's Palpatine we're talking about, but you bring it into a densely populated area, which of course it gets out. But you see like Palpatine secretly getting the scientists to, because she's like kind of like a hesitant on doing anything to this creature, but it's like take its armor, study it, experiment on it, and then kill it afterwards. But it's like the creature is not stupid. He knows what Palpatine is saying to some extent, and it's not happy. And of course, he breaks out, causing havoc, tracking down Palpatine, whether it's like by scent, or just instinct. He just finds, how to track him. And then, Yoda, Anakin, and another Jedi had to like, and some clone troopers had to, subdue this creature. And then, of course, Palpatine still uh, wants to utilize this creature, but it's to we haven't seen the fruition of that plan as of yet. Don't know what season that might come back again, but it's like, ooh, that whole thing is like, man, this dude's fucking sinister, or Sidious, I should say. Is there anything else I'm leaving out? Oh, I forgot to mention the previous video about season 1. Every time you see like Dooku, this dude is look like he's just all beard, just number of beard that talks, and it's like the design. Not that I hate the design, but it's like, man, you kind of overdid it with the beard. You can just like, lighten the beard up just a little bit, because he's like his whole mouth is like all beard, and it's like, wow, it's kind of like daunting. It's after all these years, it's still daunting to look at. It's like, man, I could have like gone back to the drawing board and just touched that up just a little slightly, because it's like, I know you kind of base them off of not Christopher Plummer, but it's like Christopher something. I forgot the late actor's name, but I know you kind of base him off that from the Attack of the Clones movie, but he doesn't have that much beard. He's not like a mountain man. He could, he's got like just above the skin, just slightly. It's not so heavy. It's kind of something that's kind of like stuck out to me. And Satine is like, not that I'm against the idea for what Satine wants, and other people and other like leaders of different planets who want to be main neutral planets, but she has to understand, and they all have to understand, like, this war, they're fighting people who also have like evil Jedi on their side, won't stop if they win the war. You think they're gonna stop at that? They're eventually gonna be like going plan to plan, which of course eventually they do in some fashion. You already know how it's gonna end, but you being a neutral party won't mean shit to them. They will come on in and land their troops on your, spot, take control, and you being a leader won't mean anything. They will outright kill you to make a point. And it's like, your neutrality, it won't hold water with guys like that. And I understand you want to remain neutral. You don't want to step in. You don't want to add fuel to the fire and endanger your own planet. You got all that to think about. I get it. But you got to understand as well. And I like this moment where it's like, which I almost forgot to bring about Anakin, but there's this moment where she, the Duchess are put into a situation when like one of her people is, the other senators betraying her, and like she holds the gun to him, and like she hesitates, and he points out like, which one of you is gonna putting them in a situation to question or at least challenge, kind of like the Dark Knight, where Joker is trying to put Batman into a situation to go against his rules, and toss it to the side. And like this guy's kind of putting these two in a situation to like really like go against what they stand for. And she looked like she was going to pull that trigger until like Anakin steps in and like stabs the dude right from behind. And there's certain moments to where like Anakin do certain things, like when he gets pissed off or he gets pushed, you hear that Darth Vader thing just creep in just underneath the surface, and it's haunting. And like kudos to like John Williams, that haunting, orchestral butcher that word, but just that, I was just say, this is like operatic, but orchestra type of theme to the Darth Vader theme. And it's like when he's force choking somebody, when he wants to get answers, and like time is of essence, and he's not fucking around. When Anakin is not fucking around, he's just like force chokes. And it's like when that bug person who's like, because there's like after they capture the guy and defeat the queen, and like one of the worms get inside a clone trooper, and like his Padawan, another Padawan is on the ship, and like it's being like, they had to shut down to keep like, because like a lot of the clone troopers are being infected, and it's like Ahsoka's in danger, and he's trying to get answers from this guy how to defeat these worms. And of course his like Jedi mind tricks won't work on certain creatures, either by them having like very strong will, or being just like that junk dealer, or whomever that was holding young Anakin and his mother as slaves. That guy Watto, as like, or at least on Watto's kind of mental thing going on with his species. It's just like they kind of block or blunt any kind of forced Jedi mind tricks. And like maybe the species kind of like Watto species, where they kind of things like kind of blocks that. So he's not fucking around. He's like, I'm not using force chokes. I'm not using mind tricks. Like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to go digging through your brain, because eventually he can do it, but it obviously takes time, because you see moments where like Anakin, Windu, and like Anakin all use their Jedi mind trick on Cad Bane, and like as strong will as Cad Bane is, he could probably handle being mind tricked by one Jedi. But when you get like 2, 3, and possibly more, it becomes, relatively dangerous, because like you're not only infiltrating a person's mind, you're essentially, running a danger of leaving a person as a vegetable, because this is kind of like, it's that level of infiltration is like very dangerous, especially if they're resisting as hard as he is. But Anakin's just like force choking him, and it's like, it's like screw politics, screw like his rights right now, because like someone he's caring about, you can see like he does want, because he already lost his mother, and you still see that affecting him, because he haven't really processed that really. So he's like, I'm not losing my fucking Padawan. You tell me how to stop these worms now. And he's like, dun 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 dun, and it's like oh my god, it's like that. It's just like scary and haunting, and like he does this when nobody else is around. It was like a little service droid standing there, but it's like he's not gonna be saying anything to anybody, but it's like, holy shit, it was scary as hell. And it's like, it's moments like that, it's like you see like he's still having fun. It's like like quipping, and it's like he's still like teaching Ahsoka, but he's like, obviously he's adopting his like little mannerisms and recklessness and stuff like that. But it's like moments when he needs her to like, because there's moments where he's like not trusting her to handle certain things, which in a way I don't know where that's coming from, because it's not like in the previous season where he completely trusted her and taking on certain missions and he hasn't questioned it before. This is kind of like season 1 territory, where he's like should be questioning, her to handle certain tasks on her own, or command a group of people on her own. She already established she can. Doing this questioning of her, trusting her at this point, handle things certain on her own is kind of like out of the blue. Like, where does this come from? Why is the turnaround? That part's weird. But it's like, man, that was scary. Like that dun dun dun. It's like every time someone's like getting really, someone who knows, like it's always like all lighthearted and like really quippy, easygoing kind of thing. It's like laid back. When it's like when you piss someone like that off, it's kind of like, not like there's like quiet, but somebody who you rarely see get pissed off, but you really struck a chord, like a big nerve, that you should have that Darth Vader thing play out, and like when they get that point, it's like dun 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 dun, and it really hits his mark. Very well done. And they use it very sparingly and at the right times. Only times when Anakin is pushed to a certain edge, you play that theme, and you don't make it bombastic. You make it subtle to know like it's creeping to the surface. That it's kind of like Dexter in a way. It's like, it's like lighthearted, but it's like when like not like he doesn't have any control over his emotions, but it's like he just like it's like hey, like underneath the surface when nobody's around, I will fucking butcher you to get what I need to get. So it's like, oh man, it's like the series so far is great. It's really like a nice little. Well, there's certain episodes like I didn't really care for more so than the last season, but I'll eventually hop in with season 3. Hopefully, I'll have that if I because luckily I don't have to worry about any Deadliest Warrior stuff, and like I just dropped the Horizon Zero Dawn, and like I'm just primarily focused on Star Wars stuff. Of course, eventually I gotta work on next month. I'll do like some a new Chaotic Lore video, but I'm not gonna, probably gonna be limited to 1 or 2 videos with that for the channel, because I really want to like make sure like when it comes to reviews right now, it's gonna be Star Wars in canon focus. Eventually, I want to do some comics, but it's not gonna be part of this what I've got going on right now. It's just like TV and the movies, leading up to like the Obi-Wan series at the end of May. So I'm really like, luckily I'm getting through these Clone Wars series seasons relatively quickly. Really like don't have any other movies to concern myself with. Anyway, let me know in the comments below what you thought of season 2. What was your highs and lows? Smash that like button, show your support and all that stuff. And I will see you guys hopefully next week at some point for season 3, if I really get down to it. But I'm also currently going through the Tiny Tina's Wonderlands walkthrough. Check out part 1 is on the channel as well. And eventually more like Pokemon Legends, because I really have not like wrapped that up at all. And luckily, eventually this year I'll be getting into God of War, the sequel to God of War Ragnarok, but that's like later in the year, as well as Pokemon Violet and Scarlet. And then next year at some point, because they moved Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad game next year, so I don't have to really worry about. No, is Gotham Knights this year? I could have sworn it was moved to next year with Suicide Squad. But anyway, it's like I don't have to be bogged down so much with too much stuff to do all at once. But anyway, I will see you guys next time. I gotta get like my Xbox Series S booted up so I can get back to Tiny Tina's Wonderlands again, to like Pokemon, and then play a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel at the end of it. So I will see you guys later.